Welcome to the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we have a real treat, and I know I'm saying this all the time, but the guy today is amazing. Hello, welcome to the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Christian Fisher, and I'm really excited to have not just an amazing human being, great businessman, a great entrepreneur, but a master connector here for you today. His name is Gil Rodrigues. So everybody, please say hello to Gil Rodrigues. Gil,
Hey.
we excited to have you here. Tell everybody who Gil Rodrigues is.
So I'm Gil Rodrigues, and I own White Rabbit Business Solutions, and it's based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And what I do is I host monthly events that are networking events, and I also coach people on networking. I speak about networking, and I also have a membership that hopefully will grow into being a national product one day of small business owners, kind of what the Yellow Pages used to be. So, with all that being said, I am always busy, but I'm always available for anybody who wants to network.
That is amazing, and you make it sound really small of what you do, but you've been doing this for a long time. You're hyper successful at it, and also what I love about you is not just your business acromens you have and the amazing person you are. You also really integrated into culinary. Joe, my partner, is your cousin, and you've been always involved in culinary. So talk to us a little bit about how your entrepreneurship started and how you started the company you own today.
Well, I started networking phew, probably about 15 years ago, I would say. And and I think we all network to a point, or we do all network to a point, if you realize it or not.
Yeah.
But professionally, I started networking about 15 years ago. And I started my own business right before COVID, which probably
Mm.
wasn't the best idea. But it was okay because I did a lot of Zoom meetings and networking events and mixers, and that worked out well. But there's nothing like in person.
Hmm.
But the thing is, with the culinary profession, it's really no different than any other profession, especially with the culinary profession. And what happened during COVID really destroyed, I think, the culinary profession to what we knew it to be.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of had to reinvent themselves. And I was telling restaurant owners, culinary experts, that networking after COVID is especially important because otherwise the people don't know if you're in business, not in business, if
Mhm.
you've changed or what. So it's very important, to get the word out, and it's still important to get the word out to let people know if you've changed, if you've not changed, even
Yeah.
the hours that you hold, if they're any different. But everybody needs to let the world know that, hey, I'm still standing and I'm here doing business, and this is what I have.
It's amazing. You make it sound so simple, and you and I have these conversations all the time because there's networking and then there's networking.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how chefs can take their position and network around their position?
So the thing behind networking really is it's all about relationships.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think that networking is just going and talking to people and getting business cards or whatever. But that really isn't it. That's the start of it. The thing is because you're building relationships, it takes time. It's not a transactional
Yep.
thing, nor do you want it to be a transactional thing. A lot of people who network want to make a sell and want to make a sell quick, and it just doesn't work that way. It's all about relationships and
Mhm.
building them and building off of them. So with the culinary environment, the thing is that the people you meet are all different kind of people. You might
Mhm.
be meeting business people, culinary people, um, networkers, whatever. And the thing is in some way they're going to help your business.
Yeah.
So you need to make that connection if you can. Now, not everybody connects with everyone, but if you do connect with them, you need to treat it like gold. Work upon it, contact them again after wherever you met them with, and just build off of that, because as long as you have that relationship with that person, when things change, when things adapt, when things tweak, kind of like you, Christian, you're in a much different spot than the last time we spoke, which was probably a few years ago. And the thing is that if we didn't keep in contact, I would never know what you're into now, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's always important to build those relationships to where you can stay in contact and touch base with each other on a regular basis, whether it's a month, a year, a week, a day, it doesn't matter. Now, you mentioned my cousin Joe. Now, to me, I always looked up to Joe because he was the master networker.
He was.
You know, he he talked to so many people and kept in contact with so many people, whether it was text, whether it was face to face, whether it was email, whether it was a phone call, it didn't matter. His network was so big and so broad that he touched a lot of people, and really that's where you want it to be. So in the culinary world, really, you just want to make as many connections as you can and build on those relationships that you connect with, because again, you're not going to connect with everybody, but the ones that you do, you want to
Yeah.
be off of.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the connection. So if I make a connection, let's be virtual like we here or in
Mhm.
person, what is a tip or trick you have for a chef to kind of reach out to somebody, introduce yourself, or ask for a confirmation or any of the networking, not just insights they have and their connection, I'm sorry, their phone numbers and their contact information. How can a chef overcome that? A lot of chefs are introverts. How
Right.
can they go out and saying, "Hey, Gil, how can they meet somebody?" What is a tip or trick you have for them?
Well, well, hopefully you can talk about yourself and what it is that you do, because that's the first step, is you
Mhm.
got to have that down. And if you have some kind of something to leave them with, as far as a tagline or something, that's just icing on a cake.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get that initial information on the person, and then what I like to do is, if I'm at a mixer or whatever and I meet new people, before I go to sleep that night, I reach out to them, send them an email that's kind of personalized, where I'm bringing up something that we spoke about, to where they say, "Wow, this guy
Mhm.
really, noticed me and kept note of what it was we talked about." But I send them an email, have that personal touch to it, and ask them to meet again. Now, that's only if there was a connection there.
Yeah.
Some people you meet, there's just nothing. It's really
Yeah.
awkward to have a conversation with them or whatever. And if you have that type of relationship, or feel like that's the kind of relationship it would be, you know what? You just move on. You just leave
Yeah.
it and move on. It's the people who you really connect with that you want to build upon. Send them an email. Let them know that, hey, you know what? You meant something to me when we met. And then set up a further networking day, whether it's a cup of coffee,
Mhm.
whether it's an invite to your restaurant or what have you. That's always a great thing to have. But if you're an
That's right.
introvert, you got to put yourself out there first of all, and just pretend like the people you're talking to is one of your real good friends or a relative or something like that. If there's a real connection there, they will become a good friend.
I love that, and you just dropped some nuggets here. So if you guys are listening, chefs, and you didn't write this down and you're in the car, please rewind and listen what he said again, because for me, you just gave him the step by step on how to build a network, not just one. In a group, you can scale this.
Right, the start of it.
Yeah. In the old days, people always talked about the elevator speech. Is that still relevant, or is there something you knew you recommend chefs to do today?
You know what? It's still relevant because it's just you feeling confident about
Mhm.
what you do. So you have to have that. The only thing is you don't know how long you have to
Yeah.
talk about and describe what it is that you do or what your business is. I always tell people it could be a one floor elevator ride, or it might be a
Mhm.
14-floor elevator ride. The thing is, you just have to be prepared for anything.
Mhm.
And it should always be a work in progress. If you've got nothing going on or nothing to do, think about it.
Yeah.
Build upon it, because I truly believe it is still relevant. Some people don't think that it is, but the thing is that you always do have to speak something about what it is that you do and what you bring to the table, whether it's your personality on a personal
Yeah.
level, that you make people feel good about food or whatever. But it's something that sets you apart from the next person, and that should be
Love
the
that.
key in your elevator speech.
I love that. So I made a connection. I have somebody's contact info. Is there some unspoken rules, some unspoken etiquettes on when to reach out, how often to reach out? What do you recommend chefs do?
Honestly, I don't know of anything that's in stone as far as what
Mm,
you should do or shouldn't do. This is what I'll tell you is what I do know is that people collect business cards,
mm,
unfortunately. So they go to these things and they meet people and they collect their cards and they just have a bunch of business cards that do them no good.
mm,
So, like I said, I reach out to them that day because the thing is that you always want to make a connection that you've made feel special. And
mhm.
and wouldn't you feel special if somebody was reaching out to you that you just met?
Yeah, totally
And
agree.
yeah, so the thing is that, do unto others as you want done to
Mhm.
you. Always keep that in mind. And if it would make you feel special and want to see more of this person or hear more about this person, then do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. And for me, if I make a connection, I just learned something from you. I usually don't reach out the same day, but I reach out the following day, just a quick text. And I think texts are the day a lot more acceptable than email. So I send a text, hey, it was really great to meet you yesterday. Let's find a way to reconnect. So when you have that connection, you said earlier, hey, let's set up another way to stay in touch with them. So what is the next step? So I have the information. I
Right.
send them, hey, Gil, it was great meeting you last night. Um, what is the next step?
So the next step is more than likely when you're in an environment like a mixer or what have you,
Mm,
when you're first meeting somebody, you don't have all the time in the world to know
yeah.
everything about that person. Um, the thing you want to walk away with is just if there's a connection there or not a connection. If
Mhm.
there's a connection, you build upon it. Set up another coffee meeting or a first coffee meeting or
Yep.
whatever that it is, and you're just building upon your relationship. Now, what it should be is a little bit of give and take where I want to learn about you and what it is that you do. And I would hope that you'd want to learn a little bit about me and what
Mhm.
I do. That's the way the give and take should happen. So, what I do, for an example, is I'll set up a coffee meeting and I'll always tell people this. I'll tell people I have a hard stop in an hour. If it's
Yeah.
a 10 o'clock meeting, I'll say I got another meeting at 11 o'clock
Mhm.
because this is always an acceptable practice. And the thing
I
is
love
that
that.
now your timer starts, you have an hour,
Mhm.
and at the end, you go your ways, and there's no hard feelings, there's
Yeah.
nothing, no matter how it goes, because you've already laid the groundwork down that you have to go in an hour. So I always tell people to do that. And then what I do is it's all about you. It's always
Mhm.
about the other person, and just learn as much as you can about them and their business and their restaurant and their skills and what sets them apart, what platform they use,
Mhm.
whatever. And then hopefully they'll turn the tables around and want to learn about me.
Yeah, and Joe was a master at that. He finished every call, every meeting. Hey, what else can I do for you?
Right.
And I always admire that about him because you came from a place of service. And today, if I make a connection, somebody reaches out to me, the last thing I want, where the first thing is asking, hey, can you connect me to this person? Because
Right.
you have them. What are so the etiquettes there? You have that connection. You feel after meeting to wow, there's some some synergies here. There's some way for us to support each other. There's maybe some opportunity for us to do business. What is the next step from there?
So from there, depending on how the first one went, now if I learned everything I could about you or what I
Mhm,
think I could about you, and you're doing the same to me, set up another coffee meeting where you're
mhm,
just reaching out, and it's more about what are you looking for? How can I help you?
mhm,
Are you looking for a CPA? Are you looking for clients? Are you looking for, you know, restaurant space? What is it that I can help you do?
mhm.
And it's always about what I can do to help you.
Yeah.
That's what I try to make it. And I got a friend that always says, no matter what the conversation is, no matter what we do, no matter anything, Gil always will ask, what can I do for you? And if they do have something that they want from you, they'll
Mhm,
let you know. And the thing is to deliver as best you can, but deliver whatever
mhm.
you can, because then it's going to make you look like, wow, he really cared enough to want to try to
Yeah.
help me. And so that's the next step. And then after that, if you feel like you've gone the distance with the person, you know all about their business, they know all about your business, then it's up to you how often you want to reach out to them. If
Mhm.
it's a really good connection, maybe in a week. and then extend it out after a week, maybe twice a month, maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. It's really hard to say, but I will leave you with the note that you never know who somebody knows.
Yeah, I love that.
The best connector could be from left field. It could be
Hmm.
from a photographer, somebody that you don't even think about, making the connections with. But you don't know who they know. I mean,
Hmm.
they could have everybody that you need in your business to their fingertips, and it
Yeah.
would be no big deal to
I,
them.
I love that. And you run these networking events, you call them mixers. Talk to us a little bit about those. And then I'm interested, if I'm not able to come to a mixer, what other forms can I do or can I leverage for me to reach out to make some connections? First, I'm
Right.
really interested how you run your mixers
Okay.
and what your participants feedback is, because you've been doing it for a really long time and very
Right.
successfully doing it for a long time.
Right. So again, I started my business right before COVID.
Mhm.
And so I was stuck indoors and having to do everything on Zoom. But then when it was over and it got to come out, what I wanted to do is I really wanted to help, the restaurants that were in trouble.
Mhm.
So I went to restaurants and I asked them and would talk to either a GM or the owner or whoever was available. What can I do to help you? What nights are slow for you? And I would like to bring people in that are going to eat and drink, pay for themselves,
Mhm.
and be an infusion of business for you. How does Tuesday sound or Wednesday sound? Or you said
Yeah.
Thursday is a slow night. How about a Thursday? And that's basically what I do. I like to say that we're kind of a roving happy hour, I guess you can say. Everybody comes in, they eat, they drink, they talk, they mix, they mingle, and that's really it. But the people who come to it, a lot of them have known me for a long time. Some
Mhm.
people I've never met before. I
Mhm.
think every event that I've had, I've met somebody new. People find out one way or another and they sign up for it to come. Um, but it's still hard to get people to come out and network. I think
Yeah.
if I could have a networking event where everybody that's come since I've started this business come out, I'd probably have about 250, 300 people in
Yeah. Yeah.
attendance, which would be
Mm.
phenomenal.
I love that. And you brought it. So you were really successful in the virtual space where you had. Did you see a difference on the attendance from a virtual space versus going back to in person?
Definitely so. The really strange thing about it is when we had the shelter in place, I thought, fantastic. I'm going to go on Zoom.
Hmm.
Everybody is all in shelter in place and has nothing else to do. This is going to be cake. So I went on Zoom. I'd be lucky if I had 20 people online. I mean,
Hmm.
it was amazing how many people got Zoom burnout really quickly or
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
didn't know what to do and didn't go on. So I couldn't wait for it to go back in person. And I know a lot of people like that in-person touch to it,
Yep.
just because when you're in person, it's a lot different than being on a Zoom call or something like this, because a lot of people will just turn their screen off and you'll be
Yeah.
looking at a picture. You can't tell by looking at a picture what it is, um, what do they feel? What are they doing? I mean, when somebody goes unvirtual and puts a picture up, I always think they must be multitasking. They must be checking
Hmm.
their email. They must be doing whatever. So to me, it was a real turnoff. And I used to always tell people, please put your camera on. And
Yeah.
everybody that I used to have online always had their camera on because I needed to see their face. And so when
Yeah.
you're in person, you get a vibe of somebody a little bit better because you see, body movement, you see, eye contact, the fluctuation in their voice. I mean, there's little things that you could pick up on that help you decide if this person's a good contact or not.
I absolutely love that, because for me, I was just on a Zoom call earlier today where one of my team members didn't have the camera on. For me, I find it actually disrespectful.
Yeah, I do too.
We here, so we keeping meetings really short, and he is notorious for never having his camera on. And it's not, I think if I feel it, I'm sure some of our clients feel it. So I love that the way you kind of build it. So being a chef, and if I don't have the opportunity to go to a mixer, where can I find people to connect with? And I hear a lot, hey, you need to leverage LinkedIn. And I don't do a good job. I have 30,000 followers, but I don't do a good job on LinkedIn. I need to do better with that.
Right.
How do you feel? What is a good way for chefs to connect around,
Well,
finding a group of people to connect with?
first of all, LinkedIn is a great tool, but the thing is that it's online. I mean, you're
Mhm.
going to get nothing other than some kind of virtual meeting with
Mhm.
that person. So a good way to meet somebody in person would be to attend maybe a chamber mixer. Most chambers have mixers every
Mhm.
month. It's great. When you start getting into the networking programs where they meet every week or what have
Mhm.
you, it's more structured, it's really good, but they come with a price and they come with a lot of strings.
Yeah.
You got attendance, you have to produce so many
Yeah.
referrals. I mean, there's it's just on, and it's a lot. Or another way is you can look at different associations. Now, I'm sure that there's many culinary associations where they might have mixers or whatever. Give them a call, find out, go to those. But if you're looking for a slice of the community where you get a little bit of everything, I would suggest the chambers of commerce because every city has one.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, just recently on a project, I joined the Chamber of Commerce, which actually I remember that from you. You were saying is, make yourself vulnerable, go in there. And so we went to the first chamber meeting. By the way, they all knew each other. So it was kind of weird. I don't want
Right.
to say weird, but uncomfortable coming in as the new guy.
Sure.
And but what I really loved about that is they all were like, "Oh my God, we knew you existed. We knew about it, but we never thought you would actually come to this." And today we have some really good relationships out of that, where people make connections for us.
Right.
So, as a chef, how would you recommend doing that? Because there's also that, hey, I don't know anybody. I'm not sure if I want to go.
Right. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit and just let you know that you don't have to be a member of a
Hmm.
chamber to go to a mixer that they have. Um, Anyone is invited to those things, and they want people that aren't members to go because then it's an opportunity for them to get you as a member.
Hmm.
But one thing that I always tell people that is a great thing to do, I used to do it with Joe all the time, is if you could go with a friend or a colleague, that's great
Yeah,
because the thing is that if they're totally out of what you do, out of the business of what you do, it works best because then I can talk about the other person, they could talk about me, and it means a little bit more than me
yeah,
just tooting my own horn.
I love that. I love
Right.
that.
So if you and I were to go to a mixer, I would be talking about you, you could talk about me. And to the person that we're talking to, they're just like, wow, this person has a lot of regard for this.
Mhm.
And there must be something there. So it gives you more credibility.
Mhm. I absolutely love that. And Joe was absolutely king at that. And so for you listeners, the roadmap Gil just laid out for you. You gotta re-listen to this over and over. And if you have a friend, somebody in the industry who could benefit from that, please bring him to this, show him this program, have him listen to this because Gil is a master at that. And he's really, really good.
Thank
Also,
you.
Gil plays really small that he is a networker. He's also a speaker. He also has some online programming out there. And our program, the Disruptive Chef, is all about embodying or giving chefs the power of choice because they have the choice to do additional things. And we know from history and from myself that chefs have referable skills. They can do some other amazing things about it. So how do you manage having this networking piece? How do you manage and do having digital media and digital training courses out there and doing speaking? How do you manage all of that? Because I want chefs to take a real good listen to this because there's a way of doing a small side hustle, which gives you a 500, 1,000 or 5,000 on the side. What impact would that make for you? And you make it a career and you run these very successfully. How do you do that? How do you make that jump from doing one thing to do multiple and still be successful in all of them?
I've noticed, and as I'm sure a lot of your listeners have noticed, the thing is that when you start to do something, it could be difficult. It could be a little clunky.
Mhm.
It could be a little awkward because you're not used to doing it. The more that you do it, the better you get, the more efficient you get at it. And as far as the networking events, I guess I've been doing so many of them and I do them so often. It's kind of a matter of I'm just on automatic pilot and I know how long it takes me to do, and I could do it very efficiently. As a matter of fact, a lot of the follow up that I was doing to my last one, I did while I was on vacation because it happened before I went on vacation. I did another one where I wasn't even there, but I still was able to follow up with it. So the thing is that no goal is too lofty.
Mhm.
You just got to do it, go for it, and just get used to it and make it a part of what you do, and it'll get easier. I promise that it will.
Y- I love when you always say that, because for me, you hear this all the time. You're just gonna do it. It gets easier. And I look at the show for an example. I can even, when my team listens to the replays of that, I can even listen to myself. Don't I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like the way what I look like, but I feel more comfortable now on episode 10 than we did on episode 1. So for me, I think there's a lot of power in that, and people take that a little bit for granted. But
Right.
how do you get started? I mean, talk to us a little bit more. How was that process for you? You did something very successfully going into that. You said there was some uncertainty, but how did you
Right.
make it successful with all 3 businesses you do?
The thing is that again, it's just at first it could be just so awkward and so cumbersome, and you feel like there's just not enough hours in a day. But you know what? You just get yourself through it, and you keep doing it, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and every time you do it, it takes a little bit less time than it did the previous time. It's a little
Mhm.
bit easier. Um, People start responding to you. Everything just becomes easy. So for those of you in the audience that say have a restaurant, could you imagine what it would be like if you were just a one-person restaurant and you did everything yourself? You were the
Mhm.
host, you were the server, you were the chef, you were everything. You might do okay, but boy, it would be hard and you would be exhausted by the end of the night. I couldn't even imagine. Um, so the thing is that you get help when you can, and you get help when it's needed. But before you get to that point, it's not a bad thing to get to learn the ropes and learn all the different parts of
Mhm.
it. The day I give it away and everybody's people that I know are doing different parts of it, at least I know what it is that they're doing, and I think that is important.
Mhm.
I think that if you lose contact with what it is your job or profession or business is, um, that's the day you start losing traction.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. And by the way, I'm looking at the clock. I can talk to you forever because there's so many valuable things you share. And for me, I scribbled down some notes. So hopefully you didn't notice that I looked to the side. But I learn every time I talk to you and I have a conversation with you. So for our listeners, talk to us a little bit how our listeners can get a hold of you and where they find your content, where they find these mixes you do, and how they
Right.
can get a hold of you.
So I would say that the easiest way right now is just to go on my website, which is White Rabbit Business Solutions with the
Mhm.
S at the end, whiterabbitbusinesssolutions.com. From there, you can find out what events I'm having, coaching, how to contact me, what have you. And for all the culinary people out there, I want to do something special for Christian. So, um, contact me. I'll be happy to help you with any kind of networking questions that you have. If you want coaching, I will give it to you at half price. Um,
Well,
Anything to help Christian, because you
I,
know what, you
I
are just
appreciate
such a
that.
good friend, and my cousin Joe is very special to me as he was to you. And,
Mhm.
our relationship is always solidified by that and will always be.
And we really appreciate it. And listeners, I encourage you to take advantage of it. So the first thing you need to do, you need to get to disruptivechef.club to join our exclusive community where we do some new glimpses of what we do. We have some behind the scenes information we put out there from these interviews. We have some new tools and techniques we test drive with that group. So please sign up, get you in there. And if you want to know more about Gil, reach out to us. We're more than happy to make that connection. Around networking, and there's one little caveat we have here. First off, give us one advice. The one thing chefs need to do right now to have the single largest impact around networking.
Honestly, you just have to get out there.
Mhm.
There's so many people that I've met and run across since COVID that don't do anything, and they've gone back thinking that everything was just going to be just like it was before, and it's not,
Mhm.
because of so many closures that happened and things have changed and people have pivoted.
Yep.
You gotta let the public know that you're standing, what you're doing, how they could get a hold of you, what you offer, all of that stuff. So get out there, network, if you need suggestions or ideas, contact me. I'd be happy to help.
That's awesome. So now we need to pivot a little bit because my team gave me a challenge, and we have 3 rapid fire questions for
Okay.
all of our participants here. So the first question, let me look at it. First question is, if there's an ingredient you could ban forever, what would that ingredient be and why?
I would say cigarettes, uh, just for the obvious reasons. Cigarettes, I mean, cigars, all of that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
they just do damage, and they don't belong anywhere in the culinary world, I don't think. And I'm old enough to where I think about when there were smoking sections, which were completely ridiculous. They'd be
Mhm.
in the back of your restaurant instead of at the front. And did it do anything for the non-smokers? No, nothing.
Uh,
So
You
that was one I would definitely stop.
you just there's a few people very upset with you right now. But question number 2, what cuisine is due for a disruptive chef to come in and make a difference? What cuisine would you like to see disrupted?
Wow. Honestly, one of my favorite dishes, and nobody made it as good as Joe, was the let's see, God, he made all comfort food feel
Mhm.
good, taste good. Honestly, I would just do it as that. Bring back comfort food and bring
Mhm.
it back done at a chef's level.
Yeah.
Because chef would say, Joe would say, "Oh, I made chicken pot pie," and I'd be like, "Chicken pot pie," and it'd be the best chicken pot pie I've ever had in my life. Or he would say,
Mhm.
"Oh, I made mac and cheese." Mac and cheese, really? And unbelievable. And so, if you have that ability, to tweak any kind of comfort food, um, I mean,
I
that's
love that.
great. I think that's fantastic.
That's really good advice. I absolutely love that. Our last question for you is, what kitchen tool is overrated and why?
Oh boy, overrated. I can't think of one that's not overrated, but they're all necessary. Um, I've got no answer. I don't think there's anything that's overrated. I guess to me, maybe no. I was gonna say maybe like a juicer or something that juices,
Mhm.
but no, that's necessary
It's
too.
amazing. So we had one of our partners, which was here for a conversation, said that the ego needs to go, and I so agree with that. And I was chuckle every time we ask that question. So with that, I want to say thank you for being here today. If you haven't done so, please go to disruptivechef.club, become part of our community. Check out what Gil is up to. What he just gave you is a 6 and 7 figure step on how to build a network, because you probably heard it said that your network is your network, and there's nothing more true than that. And I used the example last night. A really good friend of mine, which I met in one of my masterminds, he gets $50,000 an hour to speak. He spent 4 hours with me, never asked for anything in return. And that's what you get with the power of networking. With that, I want to say, Gil, thank you for being here today. Thanks for supporting what we do. Thanks for being as generous as you are with our listeners. For me, I'm not considering you a really good friend. You're just an amazing human being.
Thank
And
you.
I always enjoy our conversations. So, with that, until next time, remember to disrupt the kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the disruptive chef entrepreneur host, signing off. Be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Until next time, I want to say thanks for being here today. We really had an amazing conversation. I love having you part of this. I talk to you next week.